Walk with me. It's happening. It is happening. I know you can see it. I know you can feel it. Slowly, but surely, it's happening. I think the world is moving in a direction of whatever the next normal is going to be. And it's about time. For those of you guys that have been following our conversations over the last few weeks, you know I've kind of been all over the place, and I mean geographically. Was out in Dubai for an amazing leadership retreat of European entrepreneurs, and was awesome to see people coming together. Dubai, an amazing city and open for business. If you ever wanted to make a trip out there, now would be a pretty good time. Been doing trips the last 30, 60 days out to our Kentucky headquarters for virtual events and hosting people that have been coming in from all over North America just to get proximity to each other, create some connection and community, start to feel some element of quote unquote normalcy. And obviously it's been amazing to see so many of the states here in the US starting to quote unquote open up a lot of the limitations and restrictions we've been living under through this pandemic. And I say that living in California, we seem to be the laggards in this conversation, but even out here things are starting to progress. Indoor dining opened at a limited capacity, but nonetheless we're able to sit with walls around us. Matter of fact, I heard the other day that there's conversation of June-ish as the date, if we stay on track and stay on trend, to start releasing a lot more of the limitations. And I know as a state goes, we're on the more conservative side currently. It's happening, right? It's happening. We're moving in that direction, and I do want to be understanding and empathetic too. I know everywhere is in a different place on the timeline. It's crazy how many different approaches, strategies, perspectives leaders around the world, governments around the world are taking. It's an interesting time or test. And I do want to be empathetic. I have a lot of friends in Canada. I've had conversations. I know Canada seems to be going the other way and just implemented a new round of tighter restrictions. I talk with Europe almost every day. My friends and partners in Italy, I know, are still on lockdown. I had a conversation with someone in the Philippines last week who said they've been on probably the strictest lockdown I've heard of in person for over a year. So I want to be empathetic to, I know my statements are not universal, they're not global, but energetically, I'm willing to say it's happening. And we are starting to make some strides in a direction of what inevitably will be the next normal. Now notice, guys, I say next normal. In past conversations, I know I kind of have been talking about the new normal. And I'm adapting my language because new almost sounds like it's going to be definitive. Next, with the way that is received, comes an implicit understanding that it's just the next. And there will be another and another. But nonetheless, we're moving in that direction. And so what's on my mind this morning that I want to share with all of you is, as we start making strides to this next normal, on whatever timeline that means for you and the community you're a part of right now, I think it's only prudent, wise, intelligent to start asking ourselves the questions on what lessons have we learned? And most importantly, what lessons are we bringing with us as our own as we leap into this next normal? And I want to share with you guys just some personal thoughts. So I've spent some time thinking, and I got a bunch of lessons, as we all should, on what this last pandemic period has taught us, has given us, has delivered to us. But I came up with 7 that I want to share that I think are kind of top of the list on a personal level that I'm going to be carrying into the next normal as a means of maybe offering some insight and value if you want to grab any of the same, or do some reflections on your own version of what you'll be carrying in to this next season of life. So I want to talk about those 7 lessons of the next normal with you all today, if that's okay. But before we get into it, hey, I'm going to ask, who's by my side this morning? Don't be shy. Say hello below. Just hit the top. Here, beautiful day, Southern California. Sun is out. Skies are blue. Spring is here. For those of you guys that are part of the crew, part of the tribe that walk with us religiously, say hello below. For those of you that are new to the crew, welcome. We walk together, usually weekly, usually on Wednesdays, sometimes on different days, and we just share inspired conversation, inspired thoughts, and it is a participation, a collaboration. I really want you to add value. So start by saying hello below. Who are you? Where you're from? Tell me something good happening in your life, and please share any thoughts that come to your mind or your heart as we have the conversation. And for a library or catalog of past conversations, check out the podcast, Alive by Design, on all podcast platforms. If you go to alivebydesign.com/subscribe, it'll take you right to it. Obviously, I appreciate everybody who subscribes and rates and reviews for past conversations. But today's talk, let's get into it. Some lessons on the next normal. And if it's okay with y'all, I'm gonna take a seat for this one. My favorite rock. We're moving into a new season. We're moving into a new phase. Everything we've been through as individuals, as communities, as humanity over the last over a year now has prepared us for what comes next. It's undeniable that we are in a state of radical revolution, of radical evolution, of radical shift, transformation. And it would be naive if we're at this point in time right now, having gone through what we all have gone through, and we didn't pause, look back, and ask ourselves what gifts, what principles, what lessons has this season given to us that we may capture, we may make permanent inside ourselves and bring with us into the next phase. Because guys, that's the point, right? And that's not the point of pandemic. That's the point of all seasons of our life. Everything we go through is just a preparation for what comes next. I've always said that the next chapter is the best chapter. And it doesn't matter what chapter I'm in, doesn't matter how great that chapter may be, right? I always believe the next chapter is the best chapter. The best is always yet to come, right? Life is a perpetual state of iteration. And in order for all that to be true, in order for us to be always moving toward our better, always in the pursuit of, what comes next, we have to be growing, we have to be evolving, we have to be learning, which means we have to be capturing the lessons that are given to us in all seasons of life, both the triumphs and the trials and tribulations. So if I were to stop right now and ask all of you, if you were to write down some lessons that the last pandemic period, the last year and a half have given to you, lessons that you are going to grab as your own, lessons that you're not going to forget and let wash under the rug until they hit you upside the head again, but lessons you're going to take as your own and live by moving forward. What lessons would those be? Fire them in the comments below. Matter of fact, top of mind. Don't think, guys, you know them. You have them. I'm just challenging you to pause for a minute, reflect, and take them, document them, write them down. For me, guys, I'll share 7. By no means is this all of them, but there's 7 that come to mind when I just ask myself that question. First being that what we value and what we focus on need to be aligned. for me, if there's one thing this period, did, especially at the beginning, is it kind of forced us into a pause, right? A radical, stop everything now that all routines shattered, most just automatic patterns halted. Things that we did every day and took for granted as just the norm completely stopped, prohibited, limited. But in all of that, at least what I found is it forced me to reevaluate things that I truly value. When everything is paused and some things are taken away, all of a sudden you get a radical chance of reflection to say, wow, maybe the things that I took for granted are things that are really important. Maybe the things that I did all the time just by routine, fell into the habits, invested time, aren't even things that are high on my values list. For me, simple things like being out in nature, where there were periods during this last year and a half where trails were closed, beaches were closed. Simple things of just getting out and being able to be surrounded by nature were taken from us. It really shocked me into realizing how much that is something I value. Something as simple as time with family, right? Something that we all know and we would all say, but for me, having the chance to not necessarily just be running the motions of filling my calendar on the road 15, 20 days a month, which there's been long stretches of my life where that was my normalcy. Being able to pause, being able to spend time at home, intentional time with kids, more family dinners over the last year than I've ever had in my entire collective adult life, literally, right? Values. But not just understanding what we value, making sure that it's aligned with what we're focused on. And again, don't let this slide by, because most people say, well, what you focus on is obviously what you value, but is it? You guys, so often our attention goes in directions that aren't necessarily aligned with what we truly value. And you guys, that gap between what we value and where our attention is what, in my opinion, is part of leading to kind of an unfulfilling life, a feeling of stuck, a lack of progression or growth, where our focus is going in directions that aren't aligned with what matters most to us. You guys, where our focus goes, our energy flows, right? Where our focus and our energy flows, that's where our life goes. That's all we have is our energy, our focus, our time. And if our life is not moving in alignment with the things that matter most, what are we doing? Which sounds easy to say philosophically here, but the reality is we're all guilty of it. I know we all are. So for me, a huge lesson is to make sure, what is it that I value most? What is it that you value most? And is that where your focus or your attention or your energy is going? And maybe those things have shifted and changed with a little bit of reflection over the last year, but I challenge you to think about that, not only what you value and what's important, but is that where your focus and your attention and your energy is flowing? So for me, that's a lesson that is a big one, a gift wrapped in, right, the struggle of the last year that I'm carrying forward. A second lesson that would come to mind would be really, really appreciating both the present and the past. Guys, and not just a cliche word of appreciation, but a true gratitude for what is and what has been. You guys, being grateful for what you have currently. Isn't it a giant irony that sometimes you have to have certain things taken away before you're able to truly appreciate what you had? And you guys, that goes for maybe certain things. That also maybe goes for certain people or certain relationships, certain times of your life, right? Sometimes we have to have things limited or reduced or removed for us to restore an appreciation or gratitude for what once was. And you guys, we got to be grateful for everything we have right now, everything you have in place, and not just the things, right? But the experiences, the moments, the circumstances, the people, the relationships. And in looking back, not doing so with the lens of regret or a lens of loss or a lens of what once was or could have been, but through the lens of true appreciation for everything you've collected along the way. We've done some past conversations, right, on managing our memories and how important it is, because guys, at the end of the day, our memory line is our lifeline. We got to manage our perspective on everything that is behind us, the timeline behind us. And all of those are amazing moments, things to be grateful for. That is your life. So a second huge lesson is really, truly having a genuine, authentic appreciation for what is and what has been. It's a gratitude principle, right? So a lesson on values, a lesson on gratitude. If I were to go to number 3, I would go to health, right? And I think that's a huge part of everything we've been through over the last year. And the reality is you have to take care of yourself. And I'm talking physical health. You have to take care of yourself. If there's anything that fighting a virus worldwide has taught us, is that, guys, without health, we have nothing. You can't wait until you get into a tragic situation to start to realize you have to take care of yourself. Physically, it needs to be a priority. And I know many of us have started taking adjustments, right, to make our own health an even greater priority than it's ever been. And if you haven't, guys, wake up. That's a lesson. You got to make a decision. You got to make a decision to bring that with you moving forward. And regardless of what age you are right now, you can make that shift and make that change. But your health needs to be a priority. You got to prioritize you first, physically. The fourth thing I would say is more toward the mental health side, and that's the fact that huge lesson during this pandemic is we need to manage our input. And you guys, there was a lot of conversation, especially early on, of just how inundated we can get with so much negativity and so much fear-based conversation and so much propaganda that comes wrapped in so much motive we don't even fully understand or comprehend, and we sit there and our human ping pong balls bouncing back and forth, reacting to post copy or tweets or news clips or headlines or rhetoric or conversation. And you guys, we can sit there and tell ourselves, hey, we can get strong, or it doesn't affect us, or we can try to work as hard as we can in ourselves and personal growth to try to be able to manage how we react, right? And learn to respond. But I think all of those are a less effective strategy than really going to the source and saying, you know what, how do we manage the input that we're allowing into ourselves? Knowing that no matter how good we are, no matter how much we practice, it'll always have an influence and impact on us. So guys, the smarter strategy is to go to the source, to go to the faucet and start to turn off certain ones, right? Limit, reduce, eliminate things that don't serve us and don't move us forward. And that's a conscious choice. It's a conscious decision to manage the input that comes into all of our senses every single day, from the thing we have in our hand, right, to what we allow in our ear, to what we observe. We can't control what other people say or do, but we sure can control who we allow to say or do that to us. So to me, guys, that's a huge one, is managing our input, knowing the effect that it can have, and watching over this last year just how many people got frozen in fear purely because of the input they were allowing into them every single day, which is more of a lesson on, let's call it, mental health. If I were to shift to finances, right, it would be remiss to not have a lesson coming through pandemic when it comes to our own finances. I think the big lesson I'm taking forward is the reaffirmation or iteration that we gotta always have a financial runway. You have to have a financial runway. You know what I mean by runway? A certain amount that you can sustain your current lifestyle for a certain period of time. So if struggle hits or obstacle hits, you can make it through. And you guys, that's a lesson that everybody should have when it comes to their own finances, is to make sure you manage your money, your financial discipline, your system, so you always have a financial runway. So no matter what happens, you have a period of time where you and your family can sustain your existing lifestyle for enough of a period for you to rebound, to get through. And you guys, that's a simple financial discipline that has showed us a lot, right? Woke a lot of people up over this last pandemic. Are you doing the things right now, right, personally in your household, to have the financial discipline to create a runway so you can get through whatever gets thrown at you? If I keep going on lessons, we've talked about values, right? We've talked about gratitude. We've talked about physical health. We talked about mental health. Talked about a lesson on finances. If I were to give you two more, I would say The next one would have to be more tactical, more practical, that we have to have the ability to thrive virtually. Because I don't think this is going away, right? Even if and when the quote unquote world opens back up and everybody can get together in the same fashion we did before, and who knows if that is ever going to be the case, even if and when we get there, the world's not going back, guys. Virtual is here. And I think it's a positive, right? Necessity is the mother of innovation, and it's been awesome to see so many people, businesses, organizations completely adapt and utilize the advantage of technology, an advantage we have living today, to be able to do so much virtually, so much remotely, so much from home, and if not from home, anywhere in the world. Guys, this is a whole new landscape of freedom and opportunity if you're able to put yourself in a state where you can thrive, not just survive, but thrive virtually, thrive remotely. No longer chained to an office or a desk. Guys, so many companies, so many brands, so many entrepreneurs I talk with are like, yo, we're never going back to what once was. What is happening is working in an amazing way. So many, even people having more freedom and flexibility, less time in traffic, wasted hours, right? Home to the family earlier. So many positive benefits. But obviously learning how to keep the productivity and efficiency at levels that are the same or even higher than they once were. Guys, I don't think that's going away. A huge lesson is how can we continue to not only survive, but thrive in a remote or virtual world, and use that to accelerate. Huge lesson moving in to the next normal. And the last one I'll give today, guys, probably one that echoes everything I've talked about, and probably the most important lesson that I'm grabbing out of this period is adapt, adapt, adapt. How right was Darwin way back when? It's not the strongest that survive, but the most adaptable. Guys, that is a skill, it's an ability, it's an attitude, it's an approach. And if there's one lesson that I think echoes everything over the last pandemic period, is that we have to not get stuck in our ways, right? Not go on autopilot, not refuse shift or transformation, but embrace adaptability. Because guys, the quickest we are able to adapt, not only the more can we survive, but the more we can take advantage of the opportunities that come wrapped in different seasons of life. And guys, hey, with every great struggle comes huge opportunity. With every great obstacle comes a massive gift. And we all know that the level of need over the last year and a half has gone up in so many areas. And where there is a rising need, there's a rising opportunity to meet that need, to solve a problem, to create a better way, to provide a solution. And you guys, all that comes in massive opportunity for you, for creative thinkers, for entrepreneurs, for problem solvers. But to move in that direction, you got to be willing to let go of what once was, embrace what can be. That is adaptability. So for me, it's a reminder to bring that into the next normal. So guys, there's a couple lessons that I'm bringing with me, just a little bit of reflection that I want to kind of share with all of you as a means of adding value, but also as a means of reinforcing within my own mind, within my own nervous system, lessons I want to take into this next normal that I feel are going to be important as we all move collectively into this next phase. It's happening. Energy is shifting, right? Things are opening. It will not go back to the way it once was, but that doesn't mean it can't be better than it ever was. And there is no doubt, guys, that a next normal we are in the middle of creating right now. It won't be the last. It won't be finite. It will be the next, and there will be another. But this is a point in time of inflection where you got to stop. You got to look back. You got to ask yourself, hey, what have I learned? You got to make that your own, and you got to live by that moving forward. Guys, the only way you ever lose in anything you go through is if you lose the lesson. And life has a funny way of reminding us, if we don't learn with the circumstances we've been given, we will often relive those circumstances over and over and over again until finally we get the lessons. So let's not relive, right, some of the struggles. Let's grab the gift of education, of learning, of experience, and let's make that our own to make tomorrow better. So one more view from the top. You guys tell me, hey, do any of those lessons resonate with you? Are there any other lessons you want to share? Guys, I read every comment. I suggest all of you guys read every comment. Share some lessons that you're bringing with you into the next normal below so we can all grow and get better together. And hopefully today's conversation added value for our time. If anybody came to your mind or your heart, hey, tag them in the comments below. Say, hey, check this out, or go ahead and press share it with your community, your peer group. And again, if you're looking for past conversations, go check out the podcast, guys, alivebydesign.com/subscribe. Rates and reviews appreciated. And until the next time we walk together, hope all of you have an amazing week. Hope all of you take the time to grab those lessons and instantly start to apply them into where you're going in the future, because I know that'll make for a brighter future together. Until the next time, guys, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and look forward to walking together soon. Take care.